Welcome back to our broadcast. In this episode, we are going to be going into how Simply Shakia was able to pay off her student loans. More on that story and process coming up next. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Shakia, and in this video, we're going to be going through the process of me accumulating my student loans and getting to the point of completely paying off my student loan debt. So I am so excited to be at this point where I no longer have to worry about paying student debt. All right, so let's start with getting into school and accumulating the loans in the first place. So I started school in about 2013 and I graduated May 2019. So yes, it seems like a pretty long time. I was in school for about 6 years. It did take me a longer time to graduate because I went from a community college and I transferred to a four-year college, which we'll get into. But I also didn't take as many credits, I guess, that I could have each semester. So it's fine as long as you get to the end goal. I did have moments where I felt like I was a little behind. I also started school late, but at the end of the day, I got my bachelor's degree just like someone who finished in 4 years, so it's fine. And that goes for you guys who are feeling that way too. As long as you get to the end goal, there's no age or time frame on getting your education. So back to me starting in community college. That is where I was able to pretty much graduate with little to no loans. I pretty much got a free ride through community college, junior college, because of the fact that I was signed up and applied through FAFSA, and using the income that my parents made, I was in that bracket where they were making just under a certain amount where I was able to pretty much get those grants to go to school for free. So I got the federal grants, and then there's a state grant that you also sign up for. And I was able to get both grants from those two sources. So that really helped me get through community college pretty much without having to pay anything. So that was very helpful, signing up through FAFSA and being able to get that government assistance, getting through those basic courses. So I went through community college, and it took me about 3 years to get through community college because I actually went and I got my associate's degree first. So I had an associate's degree, then I took that degree, and then I went to a four-year university in order to get my bachelor's degree. So once I got to the four-year university, I spent another 3 years there to get my, bachelor's. And that's when the student loans started to accumulate. As much as I tried to avoid it, at that point, there was really not much that I can do to get around having to accumulate student loans. But it was way cheaper if I would have started at a four-year college from the beginning, at least. But I knew going into it that student loans were going to start to accumulate. This was also around the time where I believe I became independent in terms of receiving FAFSA funds. As before, I was considered dependent, and then I went independent and they gave me less money for some reason. Not sure how that works, but okay. So I was getting less money from FAFSA, and I was going to a school that was obviously not a junior college, so it was more expensive. And that's when I just had to take out some loans in order to cover each semester so I could, sign up for my classes. So each semester cost about $6,000 to $8,000. More so around $6,000 range. So say out of that $6,000, FAFSA paid for about $2,000, and then another $2,000 would be what I had accumulated from working during college, and then the other last $2,000 I would basically have to take out a student loan for, and that's kind of how those student loans accumulated. So what really helped me pay off my student loans was basically working throughout college. The whole time I was going to school, I was also working part-time. I started working part-time at a Target and I just saved up as much money as I could from those Target checks and putting in my savings account for the next upcoming semester. Then halfway through school, I started working at a bank, and I was making a little bit more, money at the bank. Nothing crazy, but it was more hourly, so I, again, continued to save money for each upcoming semester, so at least I had something that I could put towards out of pocket as opposed to taking out the loan. Another thing that helped me pay off my student loans was living at home with family. That's probably like one of the biggest things, being that I did not have to pay rent. I also did not live on campus, so I saved money there and I just commuted to school. When I was going to the community college, I actually just took the bus, so I didn't even have any car payments or car insurance that I had to pay for. And then once I got to the four-year college, I did have a car, so I was paying for gas and car insurance and some car payments, but it still was fine because, again, I wasn't paying rent, which would have been the bulk of the money that I could have been saving. So living at home definitely helped me be able to accumulate savings to put towards each semester. So another big way that helped me pay off my student loans were tax returns. Tax return season was a good season, especially when you're in school, because they tend to give you a good chunk of money back. I had not seen that much back since I graduated, but while you're in school, they do give you a good little amount back if you claim that you were enrolled in college. So I would get back, let's say, $2,000 to $3,000 in my tax returns, and half of that pretty much went to my student loans. So because of those tax returns and putting half of that money, instead of just balling out at the mall and going shopping on a shopping spree, I did use half that money for, myself, to go out and treat myself, have a little fun. But I also made sure I first and foremost put some of that money towards those student loans. So at the point where I was graduating and starting to pay back my loans, I had finished paying off my car. I paid that off in about 2 years. I just bought a used car that didn't cost too much, and I paid that off early. So that allowed me more leeway to be able to put more money towards, paying down those student loans. Actually, my first student loan payment was in 2018, and I didn't graduate until May of 2019, and then I still started paying off my loans even before the loans were due, which is usually 6 months after you graduate. So I started paying off my student loans earlier than even when I graduated, when I was getting my tax refunds back, because I was just trying to get it as low as I could because I didn't want to have to bother with them. So that's what I did, and that helped as well. So I will say my student loan repayment started even before I graduated in May of 2019, and I was paying, let's say, like $300 a month. I was just finishing my car payments, so I was able to put those payments towards that. And in 2020, I will say things slowed down when it came to paying back my student loans. I was fortunately still able to work during 2020, but my funds did reduce because my hours reduced. So I kind of took a seat back when it came to paying back my student loans. And because of the deferment that we had in 2020, I think that helped a lot. So even though 2020 brought a lot of, other unfortunate things, I feel like one of the things that was the silver lining was the deferment of the student loan interest, because interest accumulates and it makes the money that you borrowed more. So you borrow $8,000 in student loans. Because of that interest, $8,000 becomes $8,500 by the time it's all said and done if you just make the minimum payments. So I always make sure I make more than the minimum payments. I even started paying it before it was even due, before I even graduated. So I was already ahead of the game, and a lot of my payments were not due until months ahead. But I just kept paying it. But then when 2020 came, I kind of slowed down, but I still didn't have payments due anyway because I had already started paying it ahead of time before, everything happened. And then I ended up getting another job during that time, and it was paying a little bit more and had a little bit more hours at that point. So I started putting more money, about $200 a month, let's say, to my student loans for a couple months there. I would say about 8 months, to continue to eat away at that loan. So after being at that job for about 8 months, I was not currently working at that job for a period of about 4 months. So I didn't have any income at that time, really. So I kind of took like a 4-month break when it comes to paying off my loans around that time too. But then once I got my most recent job in October of 2021, and it was a pay raise, that's when I was like, all right, now it's time to knock this down as much as we can. At that point, I probably had about $1,500 left in my student loans. So I just try to put as much as I could. And then most recently, as of April 1st, I made my last student loan payment. And yeah, I pretty much took the amount of money that I had from putting in a savings account, because I was putting half of whatever money I had left over in my paycheck to my savings account and the other half to my student loans, and I just kept splitting it. So I had the money there in my savings, and then my student loans were going down, but then I had like about, I want to say 800 left in my student loans, and I was just like, you know what? I just want to get rid of it. So I took about 500 from my savings and I just put it right to my student loans. And then when I got my next check from my second part-time job, which also helped me pay off my student loans, I put that to the student loan as well and just paid it off, because I wanted to get it paid off before May of 2022, because that's when, at the time, the interest was going to start accumulating. But now I've checked back and it's been moved to August 2022 now. So every time they keep pushing it and pushing it back, I don't know if they're ever gonna start accumulating interest, but I am not mad at it. So you should use this time wisely to pay off those student loans interest free right now, because they're just keep pushing it back, but don't bet on it. So August is the next time they're going to supposedly start adding the interest back on your student loans. So try to make a plan to pay off as much down as possible and go hard. So what now after I finish paying off my student loans? What's the next step? Well, basically now I don't have to worry about those payments and putting money towards that. I'm basically going to use the money that I was paying my student loans to put towards my emergency fund and bulk that up. So I want to get to like about 6 to 7 months worth of living expenses into my emergency fund. Once that is at that level, then I'm going to put money into a second savings account and probably putting into investments as well. So yeah guys, because of going to a community college first, then going to a four-year college, signing up for FAFSA, getting those grants, working during college, that helped me get to a point where I was able to graduate with under 10K in loans, and that was my goal. I was like, let me at least graduate under 10K, and that's what I did, putting my tax refunds directly to my student loans, at least half of them, putting money in my savings account while I was working during college helped me as well, and just being diligent and staying consistent on paying down those student loans so I could just get it out the way and be done with it. And it feels nice to be done. So you guys will be on your way as well. Just stick to it and put as much as you can when you can to those student loans, and they will start to decrease. And yeah guys, so that's basically the timeline of me paying off my student loans and getting me to this point and the next steps that I'm taking now. So thank you guys so much for watching and joining me again in this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.